Grogu could single-handedly save Star Wars? Hey everybody, Colton here, and this question comes to us from Zachary. Colton, why do you hate the Mandalorian and Grogu so much without having even seen the movie? I don't. I don't hate the Mandalorian and Grogu, and I assume you're talking about the movie. Yeah, I certainly don't hate the characters of Din Djarin and Grogu. I think they're great. Probably, two of the best characters this era of Star Wars has created. Now, as far as the hard time I've been giving the Mandalorian and Grogu, and we got another trailer for it yesterday, did a reaction to that over on Screen Crush. Feel free to go check that out. It sounds like Zachary already did, because apparently he wasn't too happy with what I had to say. Look, I said about that trailer that it looked fun, neat. Little Gremlins reference, if anybody got that. I thought it looked fun. My main critique with it, well, two things. And they're kind of in the same bucket. One, I'm not happy with how it looks. I am not happy with the fact that it looks like a TV show. And this goes into my other complaint. This was never supposed to be a movie. The Mandalorian and Grogu is a series. And Bob Iger came in and, he said, let's make this a movie. It's our one successful thing. Let's make it a movie and get back into the Star Wars back into the movies, which I'm all for. I think Star Wars does belong on the big screen. I think that this heavy-handed push for all this Star Wars stuff on the small screen has perhaps diluted the brand. Star Wars was a movie franchise, and now it's more so a television franchise, which is, I have my complaints with that, albeit I like shows like The Mandalorian. I love shows like Andor. So it can exist in both spaces. Ahsoka was another one that I think was shot really ugly. Anyway, and I didn't really care for the series either. Anyway, The Mandalorian and Grogu, it's like the exact opposite of what they did with Kenobi. They were doing this big Disney Plus push, streaming push under the former CEO, Bob Chapek. And that's why we saw a show or a story like Kenobi with Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen coming back. Rematch of all time, Obi-Wan Kenobi versus Darth Vader. Should have been a big screen cinematic event. Then you have Bob Iger come in, learn all the wrong lessons, and take something that should continue being a series and a Disney Plus flagship product in The Mandalorian, and have that continue to be a series. Oh, we're going to make that a movie. They're so reactionary. Solo, which I liked Solo, but it underperformed. And their lesson there was, we can't do legacy character standalone movies. They don't want that, so we're not going to do the Kenobi movie. We'll do it as a series. And then Bob Iger comes in and he's reactionary and changes it all again and takes something that should be a show and makes it. That's my main complaint, is that it's all so haphazard. They're pushing and pulling in the wrong directions. They don't know what they're doing. But all of that is to say, and to go back to our question from Zachary, Colton, why do you hate the Mandalorian and Grogu so much without having seen the movie? I don't hate it. I'm so excited for the Mandalorian and Grogu. I don't have high hopes for it. I don't like how every decision they seem to make is this half-assed reactionary decision. It drives me crazy. Anyway, I now want to take the opportunity to talk about something else in this realm. I think, and to our questioner saying that, I hate the Mandalorian and Grogu. No, I hope it's great. And I think that Grogu is the future of this franchise. Grogu could single-handedly save Star Wars. Little hyperbolic, but hear me out. He can live for centuries. He's a character that has no actor behind him. He's a puppet. You can have Grogu continue for the next 20 years. Well, really, thousands of years. He's a puppet. He's not going to, get old and die and then you have to recast or anything. He's a puppet. You can do him forever. But he's a character that really, that they could continue telling stories with and tell this through line story for the next however many decades and have him be this central character that can transcend each trilogy. I want Grogu in 10, 11, and 12. I want Rey in 10, 11, and 12. I want a Mandalorian Jedi war where you have the Mandalorians leading up, I don't know which Mandalorian they would have on that end. Maybe Bo-Katan. No, I don't think Bo-Katan, because I was going to say, I want to see the Mandalorians at war with the Jedi, and Rey be over the Jedi, and then you have a Mandalorian leader, and then you have someone like Grogu in the middle, who is a very powerful Force user who trained with Luke Skywalker, but who also trained as a Mandalorian under the now deceased Din Djarin, or you could have Din Djarin be really old at this point, because this would be what, like, I don't know, 35, 40 years maybe after The Mandalorian, if we're going to do like a 10-year jump after like Force Awakens and after Rise of Skywalker, something like that. But there's a lot of cool story you can tell there with the character of Grogu. Finally have him speak. Yes, he looks like Yoda. Yoda's a beloved character. You can have him, Grogu jumping around with the lightsaber, and also, have his Mandalorian gear. He can be a badass character that goes on for a long time and that general audiences love and will show up for. Kind of like, it'd be like to an even greater extent, like with Chewbacca. They can do Chewbacca forever. And they could do Han, Luke, and Leia forever if they would just get past this fear they have of daring to recast that original cast. I think they should totally do another trilogy that picks up a few years after Return of the Jedi, but that's not what this video is about. Anyway, I think that's the direction they need to go. I think the Mandalorians, not Din Djarin necessarily, but the Mandalorians, and the character of Grogu, and Rey's new Jedi Academy and her rebuilding of the Jedi. There are so many cool stories there that can play on those nostalgia strings for, lightsabers and combat and, all of these cool things and have like legacy characters. Well, Rey at that point won't be a legacy character necessarily. Well, she kind of will be by that point. The sequels are getting older and older, but you can tell so much new, but still have some ties to the past, whether it be thematic or also some characters. And Rey and Grogu both trained under Luke. That's an interesting story in and of itself. And just seeing them continue the saga with Grogu at the forefront alongside Rey, and maybe do like a villain Mandalorian type character who is perhaps now like donning the Darksaber. Maybe Grogu is like this, Force using like Jedi Mandalorian hybrid, kind of like, I believe it was Tar Vizsla, right, who held that role way back in the day. So you could have Grogu like warring to get the Darksaber. Maybe you could have it be, you can't do Darth Maul, but maybe you could have it be a descendant of Darth Maul and kind of get into that angle that Lucas wanted to do with his sequel trilogy, where Darth Maul returned and was like over this like the crime syndicate and all that, and have that tied in with the Mandalorians. That would be so cool. And like Grogu could see that like what he wants the Mandalorians to be is perhaps it's not going the way that he wants it to be, the way that he feels it should be, the way that maybe Bo-Katan and Din saw that it should go, and he sees that this new, more villainous leader of the Mandalorians is taking them down the wrong path, and maybe he seeks out advice from Rey and maybe Force Ghost Luke to help guide him through how to save the Mandalorians as like a people and as like a culture and as like I don't want to say it's exactly the same as the Jedi, but we saw how the Jedi, like as a people, they went through a lot of corruption and they had to learn hard lessons in the prequels, but also Luke failed with his academy. So finally, maybe Rey succeeds with her academy and she is learning from the mistakes of the past. And now Grogu could perhaps be trying to do the same thing and save the Mandalorians the same way Rey has kind of saved the Jedi. We can see that war happening. We can see a cool, what is Darth Maul's species, a Zabrak, right? Oh God, I hope I got that right. I think it's a Zabrak. You can have like a horned red or yellow or whatever, have the face tattoos, Darth Maul-esque character who is perhaps a descendant of Maul, who is now over Mandalore because, Maul was once the ruler of Mandalore and held the Darksaber. Maybe he beats Grogu in a fight, gets the Darksaber. And God, that would just be so cool. And will they ever do it? I don't know. But it'd be cool. Grogu and Rey teaming up, fighting Darth Maul looking dude, trying to bring the Mandalorians and the Jedi together. Have that Darth Maul looking dude say how, Grogu's a traitor and he's one of them dirty Jedi, and have Rey having to try to convince the Jedi beneath her, or, under her, if she's like over the council or whatever, that the Mandalorians aren't all bad, and that we need to do away with this constant bickering that has plagued the Mandalorians and Jedi for centuries. That would just all be so awesome. And I hope they do it. Does that answer your question, Zachary? Thanks for the question. All right.
You're still here. It's over.